back to Dunces and Dragons Week 10. Hope everybody's enjoying themselves. How's it going, cast members?
Woo!
Woo!
Just reading.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for hanging out with us during the break. I think Golarion is sufficiently prepared. Are you prepared for your epic testimony of law and orderishness?
I don't know about sufficiently, and I watch more House than I do Law and Order, so this is going to be an interesting.
Consider yourself a medical expert then.
Yeah, you know. I need some painkillers.
All right. Well, so proceed.
Okay. Where are we at?
Yeah.
Fun, fun.
Fun, fun. Nice! That's beautiful.
Oh my god. Previously on Law and Order, Golarion.
I like how it says, Usla, Beeland County Court, Beast of Levistat Injury, Trial Part 1. Gong gong!
Gong gong!
Gong gong!
I should put like 10:14 a.m. Tuesday.
You should have put like
PM.
You should have put asterisk dong dong asterisk
Dong dong.
dong dong.
Dong dong. Okay, so as the beginning of the trial has been approaching, there's been like growing carnival-like atmosphere all around the courthouse as people are gathering to add even more stuff to put on to the punishing man in hopes of getting to see the beast burned in a couple of days' time. At 10 o'clock, the trial officially begins with a gong being hit by the herald.
Did it by chance sound like a gong gong?
Gong gong.
Gong!
You see at first, the beast is let in, still wearing all of his 12 chains, by a trio of guards, who take him up to this large iron chair and, lock all the chains to it in front of the courtroom. A little while later, the three justices come out, including Justice Daramid, who you guys are supposedly friends with, the Chief Justice Ambrose Card, and then the third justice, whose name I can't remember. So many names. Oh, his name is Casp Aldar.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I think he's from the Star Wars universe. That sounds like a Star Wars game.
That does sound
Cash.
like a Star Wars name.
Cash.
So the Chief Justice Ambrose begins to lay out the rules of the court, and every time he lays out a rule, the herald bangs a gong. So, no talking during proceedings, no weapons in the courtroom, no magic is to be used in the courtroom, so on and so forth.
Gong gong.
So there's Cass Valdar, Chief Justice Ambrose. What's the other one's name?
Daramid, the Professor McGonagall judge, basically.
Okay. Okay.
Justice Judge Lady.
And then after he lays out all the rules, he kind of concludes his speech by saying that the good people of Lepidstad have suffered numerous acts of terror and barbarism from the beast, and while the beast is doubtlessly responsible for numerous murders, the prosecution will focus on the three most recent events. And he outlines Morast, Herxog, and the burning of the sanctuary.
Who says that? Who says that again?
That is the Chief Justice.
Okay. Wait.
Yeah.
The Chief Justice said that I'm not there, but I'm fucking losing my brain. The Chief Justice just said that the creature is doubtlessly responsible.
Yeah.
That's not Ambrose. That's not the one that we're with, right?
No. You're with Daramid,
Yeah.
the only female, by the way.
Okay.
Do what?
No, I said, oh, okay.
Okay. So then they proceed on to the opening statements. The prosecutor, whose name is Otto Heger, kind of outlines his case. He makes allegations about the beast being responsible for the murder of the 10 people in Morast a year ago, and then kind of alludes to the other two crimes for which he will prosecute the beast as the trial continues. And then he yields the floor to Barrister Gustav Koppel, who's defending the beast, who kind of goes into this half-assed, stuttering, awkward defense opening argument speech. And as he's doing this, he's kind of being, you know, sort of jeered and booed at a little bit by the public, like, crowd, the common folk up in the rafters where they're allowed to be, or the gallery.
The gallery.
Is this a Robert's Rules sort of thing, or can I just, you know, old school medieval time, get up and do whatever?
It's not really Robert's Rules, but it's good that you brought that up because it's basically going to be like a real-time type thing, and unless you say out of character, I gotta go take a dump, I'm going to assume your character is saying exactly what you are saying. Basically,
I'm really glad you said that, as Golarion and myself.
Well, I would have said it at some point, and anything up until that point would have been stricken from the record. But that's kind of how we're going to run this. So,
Cool.
So the witnesses for the prosecution get up, and the prosecutor kind of goes through, their like has them kind of recount what happens. So Lasny gets up there, as well as two young women who you hadn't talked to, and they each go through their, recounts of what happened. They talk about how the beast came into the village, took people away, and that they're finally able to lay a trap for the beast when it came one night, and they were able to drive it off into the swamp, and they had assumed that it was killed. And then Lasny talks about how the mob drove the beast off, and confirms the events that these two women basically said. And he recounts how they had attacked him, drove him off. They saw it bit by the blood caiman as it was swimming away into the swamp, and all that good stuff. And then the prosecutor hands it over to the defense, and again Gustav kind of stutters and makes an introductory statement, and then calls Lloyd into the stand to present the evidence that they have found. And so you're called up, and he says, please, for the court, recount everything that you have discovered in defense of the beast so far.
Well, in regards to just Morat's on its own individual case, I won't talk about anything else until that is what is being discussed. But in regards to just Morat's, we have gone to the town, and we've talked to Lasny at his hut. We discussed with him that this crime happened about 7 months ago. He described the beast as being a 7-foot being, and they said that they had chased the beast to a swamp and tried to follow him across the swamp into their boneyard, where they had buried their, I guess, their dead and all that kind of thing. He said that the beast was bitten in the swamp by a blood caiman, and that they would not go into the boneyard because they believed the boneyard to be tainted by the blood that had been spilled from the bite of the caiman. Lasny has also said that he does drink on the occasion. He was talked to by the prosecuting barrister, who is here with us today, and that the people that were killed were just like everyone else in the town, that there was nothing special really about them. Let's see. What is there? I mean, after we talked to Lasny, we talked to him at about midnight, and Lasny also had said that when they were chasing the beast, that it was about the same time. So visibility was very low. After talking to Lasny, who was not the most jolly of fellows, we decided to take it upon ourselves to go look at this ground, because it is not it wasn't something that we were necessarily afraid of doing, being in tainted land, I guess you could say. So we went and we waded across the swamp over to the boneyard. Once we got on the other side of the shore, we found a boat, a single boat that could carry just one single person, one single normal-sized person, because we had a hard enough time trying to bring the boat back with some evidence that we found. In that boat, there was a leather sack, which contained rope, shovel, 3 butcher's knives, rusting lantern, and a gag. We also found an oar, a travel bag, curious rolled leather cloth, which did in fact turn out to be the carved out form of a face. It was verified by my group that it was a real humanoid face. There was dried humanoid blood in the canoe, and there was also a travel bag that had shirt, shoes, extra cloth, and I believe that is it in the canoe. So we pulled the canoe on shore with the rope and saved that for a later time. Then we walked around to inspect the rest of the area, and there was a campsite that looked to be pretty old. In that campsite, there was an old dusty water skin that we believe was filled with red wine. There was a glass vial that smelled like carrots, and there were trail rations. So the moss on the canoe looked like it could be anywhere from 2 months to 2 years. So there isn't really a time frame for the moss on the canoe that we found. Let's see. We walked around a little bit, and we looked to see if there was anything else that we could find. We came across their graveyard, and up in the air we noticed that there was a massive nest in a tree. And in that nest, there was the corpse of a dwarf, a trench coat with pockets, masterwork short sword, and a light gray stick that was intricately carved, which we decided and figured out that was a wand of ghost sound. But we did not find this nest without much trouble. The nest is inhabited by a large winged lion, also known as a manticore, that we took grave troubles against, and actually lost one of our party members too. It was quite the trial in dealing with this, and I imagine that anybody singly that would go up against this one single manticore would have perished on their own. Had we not had the rest of my fellow companions, everyone, we would have died, most certainly, if any one of us would have been alone. So that is what we found in the nest. We also found a flask, which is oil of keen edge. There was a red felt purse that had 21 platinum pieces and 32 gold pieces. And under the nest, we found 6 graves that had been tampered with before we had gotten there. The ground was depressed, and there were empty caskets in each one. We went back after finding all of these things. We took all the evidence that we were able to find, put it in the boat, struggled with it across the swamp, and went back to go talk to old Lasney, much to his dismay. And we talked to him about the face that we found, and he said that he recognized it as the face of Nan Kablem, who was a pelt seller. I don't know.
Man Kablem.
Klebum. Or was it Klebum?
Man kablam!
I believe it was Klebum, actually.
Klebum, yeah.
Many of you may have heard of him if he's been around in this area as well, but Nan Kablem would sell pelts, and he hasn't been seen or heard about from in about a year. So, upon, finding this out and realizing that there was nothing else that we could nothing else that we could get from Morats, we left and went back to the dungeon and talked to our accused about all of these items. And upon talking to him, we noticed that he does not have any bite marks on him of the blood cayman sort. We also were not able to get very much information out of him, but in my personal opinion, I do think that the evidence is rather short in this case against him. I think that it's a very small possibility that this was done by the same person as the other cases, at least.
The Chief Justice asks you if this concludes your statements about the evidence.
This concludes my statements about the evidence. If you have any other questions about anything else that I may have to say, then you may ask them. If you wish to not do that, then I am done talking.
Just 1 second.
Okay.
Drop the knowledge. Blah, blah.
Okay, so
If the bot don't
based
fit,
on the evidence,
you must acquit.
all right, before the cross-examination, before I'll do that part, based on the evidence you presented, I'll need you to make 3 diplomacy checks for me to tell me how convincingly you pled the case.
Really glad I made a macro. However, I didn't put it in my thing. It's the only one that's not there. So many macros. Out of character. I said that because otherwise it would have made no sense.
They're like
Macros? Macaroons, you mean?
Macaroons. Yes, they're delicious.
Macaroni?
That's my favorite.
Okay, so a 25, a 12, and a 15.
Mhm.
Well, she started off good.
That's the only thing I don't like about this.
Oh, there's another baby. Hi, other baby.
Out of character. Hello, baby.
hello, baby.
Hello.
So after the conclusion of your speech, the prosecutor gets up and begins to cross-examine you. And he says, tell me again how long ago that you found from Lasney that this event occurred?
How long ago? I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
You gave me a statement about how long ago this event occurred, and I would like to hear that again.
A statement about how long ago the event occurred. Lasney had told us that it was 7 months.
He says, let the court record show that multiple witnesses have stated that this event took place at least 12 months ago. And then he turns back to you. Let's see here.
Out of character, this whole court case is about how good you are at taking notes. Good thing I was a history major. Back in character.
And he said, you mentioned that the beast didn't seem to have any sort of bite consistent with a blood cayman bite. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can you please tell me which veterinary school you or your compatriots graduated from to be able to have the knowledge and prestige to be able to make such a claim?
Oh.
To be honest, I was not the one personally who did the heel check or who examined the bite. It was my good friend Lemnisket, and we have not talked about what medical school he has gone to. So if you would like to know that, you would have to ask him. As far as that information, I am not equipped to tell you.
He says, I see.
I honestly don't remember who did the hill check. Was it both of us, Taglili, or was it just you?
I think it was me, but no worries. I could be wrong.
Yeah, but none of us observed anything on him.
Except for the
Yeah, I mean,
on him.
I mean, anyway.
well, no, yeah, and I say, and I personally, with my own elf eyes, I didn't see any bite marks, and believe me, within the past
My elf eyes.
in the past couple of years, I have been in much combat, and I know what a bite mark looks like, whether it's blood came in or any other kind of beast, and he did not have one on him.
All right. He kind of casts a glance at Judge Daramid, and then turns back to you. And he says, can you please tell me where you and your companions hail from?
As in, like, my past life, or just where we've been recently?
Where did you come from most recently to come to Levistead?
We came from a town that had a professor in it,
Ravensgrow.
called Ravensgrow. That and we came here to deliver some books to some friends of a professor that had recently just died, and it just happened. The timing of it just happened to be. We're here at the same time as your trial that you are proceeding with right now.
And what motivated you exactly to be a public defender and volunteer your services to defend this mongrel?
The town that we had just come from, we experienced a lot of misunderstanding in the whole accusation of one of their whole town's members, and through our own kind of investigation and our own just my own curiosity as to find the truth, we were able to find out that was not the case with that. So I feel obligated to do the same here, whether he's guilty or not. I still feel that it is the duty of the people and, the right thing to do to find out whether or not he had actually done this or not. If he's guilty, then he's guilty. If he's innocent, then I'm going to do what I can to find what it is without going based purely off of hearsay.
I'm going to have you make a bluff check, because I assume you want to cover up your omission of your relationship with Judge Daramid.
Yes. Oops. I'm gonna roll an S20.
Okay. And then he says, did you come straight here? Did you meet anyone along the way? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
We did meet some on the way. I am curious, though, as to your intentions behind these questions. I don't see why this is valid.
The judge bangs his gavel in the middle of your sentence and says, while on the stand, it is not your place to question the prosecution in their duties.
Okay, very well.
And if you do it again, I will find you in contempt of court.
Understood. Then I will tell you. On the way here, we met a band of very curious people. I also ran into my cousin, who happened to be hanging out with these guys, and we proceeded to travel to your town with this band of people.
What sort of people is this band that you traveled with?
These people are very jolly, very light-hearted folk. They may not be what you call aesthetically pleasing. However, their personalities do mask what their physicalities lack.
And what do these ugly people do for a living?
They are performers. In fact, the very night that we got here, we all had performed for you all, and my cousin did a great job at outshining me, like she always does. She's an actress.
So he nods, and he says, is it not true that your entire traveling company, deformed members excluded, were implicated in a bribery accusation not 12 hours ago?
It is true. I will not lie. However, the motive behind the bribery, and I will tell you that it was my own personal thing, and it wasn't. It was, we weren't being able to talk to our accused correctly without the guards giving him a lot of heckling and all that, and it wasn't effective for us to talk to him that way. And so I offered them some money if they would let us talk to him in peace, which we should have been able to do anyway. So that wouldn't have had to happen had they just let us do our job as defenders.
He sort of nods and he says, devil made you do it, I see. He says he has no further questions for Lorien at this time, but he would like to call to stand Lemnisket, who has been named as the person who identified the lack of bite mark on the creature. So you're allowed to step down. The herald goes over and knocks on the door of the defense room and tells you to come out. So you come out to swear in, blah, blah, blah.
What do I, whoa, how do I swear in?
You are required to swear in on a holy text of Pharasma. It's kind of a swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help me Pharasma. Nothing like hail Pharasma or anything like that. Just sort of standard.
Would I know if this would be a breach of my allegiance to Gozray?
Probably not. The act of swearing in doesn't, it makes your skin crawl, obviously, but you're not acting on her behalf or doing her bidding or anything like that. It's just kind of a slight insult, but nothing major.
I ask the judge for some leniency and some wiggle room on this, and I ask if I can swear in the name of my god Gozray rather than Pharasma.
Oh, never mind.
The three judges kind of have a little sidebar with each other, and once they get done, the Chief Justice says, we will allow you to swear in by your god, as the god Gozray is not a god of particular malevolence, but a god of balance and fairness in nature, as we see him.
Indeed, and I thank you, judges, for giving me this grace, and I swear upon. I guess I hold out my holy symbol.
Okay.
And I swear on my holy symbol.
So you swear in. The prosecutor says, your compatriot has named you as the person who examined the beast for bite marks. Is this correct?
Yes, this is correct.
And what did you find about the bite marks?
That there were none.
He asks you, what credentials do you have as a medical or animal examiner?
I am a cleric of Gozray, and it has been my responsibility in my lifetime and within my adventuring party to be the healer and to heal those that are suffering by the power of Gozray.
He turns to the beast and kind of motions to him, and he says, well, as a obviously skilled healer and practitioner of medicine under the will of Gozray, would you please tell me what sort of creature this is?
I say, unfortunately, I cannot correctly identify.
Okay, hold on. Before you say that, what knowledge checks do you have?
Okay. None.
Okay, then proceed with what you're saying.
He can use phone a friend.
Phone a friend. I
Who wants to ban the beast of epithet?
I basically say I cannot, unfortunately, correctly identify exactly what type and I guess species of creature this is. That unfortunately is a bit of knowledge that I cannot give to you.
He turns back to you and says, so you wouldn't know one way or the other if this is a creature with some sort of regenerative abilities, like a troll, for instance.
That is possible. It is possible.
And given the amount of time that's passed since this beast was identified as attacking the village, if it did have certain powers or regenerative capabilities like that, do you think that in your professional, clerical, and medical opinion, that the bite marks and scars could have been completely regenerated and show no evidence at this point?
Real quick, as an aside, do I see any kind of scarring on the body of Collage?
Yeah, there's scarring all over his body, really.
Okay.
Associated with all the seams and the sewing and stuff like that.
Okay. Then
Can I lean to our defendant guy and talk to him?
You're not in a courtroom anymore.
Yeah, we're
I'm
not in
the
there.
court, so I can't hear any of this?
No.
Damn it. I have a really good point. ahead.
Then okay, so I say okay, so would you I asked could you repeat the question, please?
He says, do you think that whatever, if a beast like this did have some sort of regenerative capabilities and given, a year's amount of time, that the scars caused from the bite couldn't have been regenerated to the point of not being visible?
I say I would direct the court to look upon the beast and see the many scars that reside on his body as possible proof that this character or that this creature does not have those kind of abilities.
The prosecutor says it's very interesting. Now, how do you know those scars aren't the bite scars?
Because the witnesses to the I guess the biting said that the creature was bitten on the leg, and there are no I don't know. I'm totally fuck. I just say I don't know.
He turns to the judges and he says, let it be known for the record that all the witnesses stated that the beast was bitten on the shoulder while it was fleeing by blood came in.
I do say I would apologize to the court. I have misspoken.
You get a stern look from the judges. And then the prosecutor says, I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor. And then he goes to sit down and you're dismissed. After which time, the Chief Justice calls a court recess for the day, stating that the trial will be continued tomorrow at 10 a.m. concerning the events of the town of Hergstog, and then bangs his gavel, and everyone starts to get up and murmur about, amongst themselves. Rabble, 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 rabble.
Oh, fuck.
So I go back to the party and I basically said, well, that went just about how we thought it was gonna go. No help from me.
What did they ask you? What did they say?
Wait, are we allowed to talk about the case? Like, aside? Like, sometimes
We're
you're not allowed to...
public defenders. Fuck
Oh,
that.
okay. Okay.
You're right.
Sounds good.
We get free coffee at Dairy Queen.
Even if, I mean, yeah, even if we're not the ones on trial, so we can discuss whatever we want.
Okay.
I basically tell them everything that happened. I tell them I misspoke and said the leg, so it didn't really help our cause. And I just basically just say, yeah, and just the heat of the moment, I just couldn't think of what body part he got bit on. And I just messed up there. But I think this went about as... I don't know if it went any worse or any better than it could have gone. We just didn't have anything to go on.
I asked him, what sort of questions did they ask? Like, I knew that they were going to ask you about your medical background, but I mean, what does that have to deal with where he was bitten?
Well, I think the prosecutor was basically trying to, number one, discredit my credibility to the court as far as a healer.
Right.
Which I kind of shot myself in the foot in that regard. And then he was also attempting to basically say that the creature may have regenerative abilities that where a bite mark wouldn't show on the body anyways.
Then I say, if you get called again and they ask you that, or if they ask any of you guys that, we can point out that he was sewn together by somebody else, and those things didn't heal. If he had regenerative abilities or regenerative abilities, he would have, like, you wouldn't be able to see where he was sewn together. Right. So he obviously doesn't have that regenerative thing.